Welcome to the Chicago Bears 2025 NFL Draft Special. Today I'm going to cover everything you need to know heading into the first round of the NFL Draft, including what players to root for that could potentially fall to us in round two. Listen, while most people have spent the last few months clickbaiting and spreading narratives, I've spent so many hours watching tape and narrowing down who I think the Bears could pick, not only at pick 10 but also at pick 39, 41, and 72. A lot of people focus on that first round pick at pick 10. And while I will quickly address that today, most of what I'm talking about today are what players could fall to us in round two and even guys that we could potentially get in round three. If you continue watching tonight's NFL draft after the Bears pick, it's always fun to have players to root for that you want to fall to us in round two. And this year, with two picks early in round two and the depth in this class, there's a better chance of a really talented player falling to us than any round two that I've witnessed in my life watching the draft. And there is an extremely high chance that a talented player that most people don't expect to be on the board will fall to us in round two. Today, I'm going to talk about what players those are, as well as showing off my top 50 big board, the players I believe that are the 50 best fits for the Chicago Bears and more. Let's go ahead and get right into it. First, let's go ahead and talk about the favorites for pick 10. There's a ton of wild trade rumors and stories going around. The rumors are just out of control. But these are my top five that I think: Ashton Genty, Tyler Warren, Will Campbell, Jalen Walker, and Mason Graham. I think those five guys have the highest chances of becoming a Chicago Bear tonight. After that, then it gets kind of murky. It could be Kelvin Banks Jr., Michael Williams, Shamar Stewart, Amarian Hampton, Armand Mimbu, or even Derek Harmon. But I believe our odds of landing one of these top five guys is pretty high. If we trade up, we're pretty much guaranteed to land one of those guys. But this draft is about more than just pick 10. And there's plenty of videos out there talking about who we're going to take at pick 10. I've made a ton of them myself, even done full scouting reports on most of these players. But what about day two, picks 39 and 41, where it's going to get really exciting? These are the top players that I'm going to be rooting for to not get selected in the first round. I would love to see one or two of these guys available when the Bears pick at pick 39. Topping off my list is Michigan's Kenneth Grant, the monster defensive tackle. He's a big athletic freak. He's the best run stuffer in this entire class. If he's there at 39, it would be an absolute dream come true. But same for the next two players on my list, honestly. James Pierce Jr., who's the second best pure pass rusher in this entire class, another guy who I've had in my top 10 all year long, and he's fallen down draft boards due to character concerns. I think putting him on a line with Grady Jarrett, and then he has Dennis Allen and Al Harris and all these other great coaches, I think it'd be a perfect fit. But if not James Pierce Jr., Nick Scourton would also be a perfect fit in round two. Nick Scourton's better at playing the run than James Pierce, and he's one of the youngest pass rushers in the draft at just 20 years old, and he has 15 sacks over the last 2 years, including 10 in 2023. That's when he played at 257 pounds. He was a better pass rusher that year. This year he bulked up to 280, and he was better against the run, but his pass rush wasn't as good. Guess what he was at the combine? 257. Nick Scourton is one of my favorites at pick 39. But if we don't land any of those three, there's still a plethora of options that could be available. Walter Nolan, the stud defensive tackle out of Ole Miss. Josh Simmons, the left tackle who was a potential top 10 pick before he got hurt. Could he fall to pick 39? It's possible. Tyler Booker, the stud guard out of Alabama, and Josh Connerly out of Oregon. Those are the top guys that I believe, if they fell to pick 39, would be absolute home run picks. But like we've talked about all along, this draft has a ton of depth. And no matter how the board falls, there's still going to be various impact type of players on the board. Some of my other favorites for round two would start off with four Ohio State players. I love all four of these guys. You have Donovan Jackson, the left guard who moved over and played left tackle. He's a stud. And then both running backs, Quinshawn Judkins and Travion Henderson. Judkins is the do-it-all back who just loves running with physicality, but he also has the speed and shiftiness to be a three-down guy. Meanwhile, Travion Henderson, he's the best pass-blocking running back in this class, and he has that home run speed that Ben Johnson loves. Either one of those guys would be great fits. And then my fourth Ohio State guy is Tyleek Williams, who in my opinion is the second best run-stuffing defensive tackle in this class, right behind Kenneth Grant. He would be an option there if Kenneth Grant's off the board. But a couple other guys I want to mention. Ariante Ursary, the tackle out of Minnesota. Xavier Watts, the safety from Notre Dame. And then a couple other pass rushers I'm pretty big on, Landon Jackson and Princely Umanmilayan. You could also throw Jack Sawyer, Braden Swinson, and JT Tuimoloau in there as well. Basically, there are a ton of pass rushers that are going to be on the board there. So Ryan Poles and Dennis Allen will have their choice. If they want a pass rusher, which one do we like best? But then even going down to pick number 72, I also want to show off because there's a lot of other guys here I believe have a chance of falling all the way to pick 72. In my last two pass rushers, I believe there is a chance that Landon Jackson or Princely Umanmielen could fall to pick 72. Same with Jack Sawyer out of Ohio State. And then I have a couple of defensive tackles, Alfred Collins out of Texas and Omar Norman Lott out of Tennessee. Another offensive tackle, Ozzie Trapillo from Boston College. A tight end that I really love, Harold Fannin Jr. A couple running backs, Dylan Sampson, RJ Harvey, and Bashul Tootin. And then there's a trio of safeties that could fall to this pick as well. Kevin Winston Jr., who's another option at pick 41 potentially. And then Andrew Makuba and Sebastian Castro out of Iowa. But there are also some sleeper offensive line prospects to watch here as well. Marcus Mabo out of Purdue, Anthony Belton and Charles Grant, the two small school tackles, and then Wyatt Milam, the West Virginia left tackle who's going to move inside to guard in the NFL. And then Jared Wilson is probably the best center on the board this year. A couple other players I mentioned, Olu Oladeju, the UCLA pass rusher, another guy I hadn't mentioned yet, Ashton Gillette out of Louisville, and Danny Stutzman, the linebacker out of Oklahoma. Basically, for all my NFL draft fans out there, for you guys looking over these names right now, it's easy to see that there are just a ton of names that could be available for the Bears in round 2 and round 3 that are guys that could really help this roster out and be impact players over the next few years. But I went one step further here, guys. And this is my Chicago Bears big board for 2025. My top 50 ranked players for the Chicago Bears specifically. Starting out with Abdul Carter at number 1, Travis Hunter at number 2, Mason Graham, Ashton Jeanty, and Tyler Warren round out my top 5. But you see a couple of my guys who I have as round 2 options, Kenneth Grant and James Pierce Jr., I have those guys rated as top 10 prospects. If we could somehow land one of those two in round 2, that would be an absolute dream come true and one of the better value picks I've ever seen the Bears make in my entire life. But other guys that could fall in my top 20, Walter Nolan's an option, Nick Scoreton's an option, and what if safety Nick Amanawore fell? That's another guy who could potentially be an option there. But after that, then you get to 31 through 50 on the right side. All of these guys could potentially be on the board in day 2, and I'm a big fan of all of these players. I've talked a ton about these Ohio State guys, but Josh Connerly, if he falls, he's the left tackle out of Oregon. He's another guy who'd be a really good fit with the Bears. Another player on this list I haven't talked about a ton, Caleb Johnson out of Iowa. Basically, there's some options here. Say the Bears don't get Ashton Jeanty in round 1. If you look at round 2, at running back, you could grab Quinshawn Judkins, Travion Henderson, or even Caleb Johnson. But same goes at tight end. If we don't take Tyler Warren in round 1, Mason Taylor would be a perfect fit on day 2. But don't rule out guys like Elijah Arroyo, Gunnar Helm, or Harold Fannin Jr. But same thing at defensive tackle. If we don't land Mason Graham in the first round, maybe we could get Kenneth Grant or Tyleek Williams in round two. The options in this year's draft are simply amazing for the Chicago Bears. I think with the flexibility the Bears have, the leverage we have in trade scenarios, and having that extra second round pick, paired with the depth and talent in this year's draft, and I think Ryan Poles is ready to hit an absolute home run in this year's draft and grab some players that will make an impact and help us win more games this season. Who are the players that you want the Bears to end up grabbing in tonight's draft? Let me know in the comments, guys. I'm excited. I will be live tonight at 7 Eastern when the draft gets started. I'll also be live tomorrow with Greg Gabriel talking about who we picked tonight and breaking down our options in round two even further. I'll update my round two list after we know who gets drafted tonight, and we'll discuss that further tomorrow. And then I'll be live for tomorrow's picks as well. Stay tuned, guys. Please hit that like button for me. Share this video with your friends. And until next time, bear down.